had to be around my brothers, because if I wasn't around them, I probably wouldn't. I would have killed myself some way, somehow. And I needed them to help me keep grounded, to give me a mission, you know. And my mission was, they're going to make it through this one. So.
That was a lot of surgeries.
Yeah, a lot. I had to go in for a shoulder surgery because the wall fucked my back and shoulder up pretty good. And the anesthesiologist, you know, they got to talk to you before you go into surgery. And she's like, have you ever had anesthesia before? And I just got this huge grin. She's like, what? I'm like, I'm an anesthesia pro. I'm good. Don't worry about me. I wake up from it just fine. She's like, how do you know? And I was like, I'm about 16 surgeries deep.
Chuck.
So, a lot of metal.
And Bill, you get Casavac.
I got Casavac. I think I went to after the battalion aid station, and Miller and I got on the helicopter. From there, I went to Anaconda, and they pulled some metal out of my leg and stitched me up. And then a day later, or a couple hours later, I was on a flight up to Lamstuhl. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I went straight into San Diego. Stayed there for about a week or two, just made sure that my hole in my arm wasn't going to be detrimental. And then they sent me on my convo leave.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you go on convo leave?
Back home up to Washington.
Washington, nice place to convo, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And, well, one of the hardest things through my whole, like, getting medevaced out was nobody had any answers for me. Battalion 8 didn't know. Nobody in Al-Assad knew it, because I kept asking about Jason, because I wanted to know. My mom had, during the deployment, become in contact with Deb and Dan. And they kind of became, you know, a Marine family. And my mom was the one that actually told me Jason passed when I was in Bethesda, but I was still in the hospital when she told me. I remember it was like crushing. It was basically just reliving it all again, because the whole time I wanted to know, and the only news I got really was the bad news.
And Bill, you're it sounds like you're the one that actually you saw him with his helmet, reached out, and you're probably the first person that said, I know what just happened.
Yeah. My sister broke the news to me on the 22nd or 23rd, 24th, whatever. They came down and stayed at the Fisher House at Balboa. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I pulled that rifle back, and I was thinking in my head, my eyes had gone down, and he was right there in front, and I thought his helmet had come off during the fight. And I was like, all right, hold him. There we go. I'll do this. And then it went out.
Boom.
Yep.
You know, I know talk a lot about decision making, and as combat leaders, you got to make decisions. You got to make decisions. You got to make hard decisions. And as hard as those decisions are, there's the absolute most horrible of all decisions. That I can't even fathom trying to make is one that Dan and Deb were faced with. And this is based on the fact that they're getting told that, I mean, this is what they get told. Dr. Dunn introduced himself, and Dr. Mulligan Joined them back in the waiting room. Deb thought the 35-year-old Mulligan was pretty. Dan thought she seemed awfully young for a neurosurgeon. Dr. Mulligan spent little time on pleasantries. The prognosis for your son is grim, she said. She explained that the biggest grenade fragment had caused so much damage that even if he survived, Jason would likely be paralyzed on one side and unable to speak or understand those who spoke to him. The swelling of his brain stem had destroyed its ability to keep the body alive unless a machine did his breathing for him. What you see is what you have, she said. He will never be able to hear you or know you are there. Mulligan said there was an operation she could do to relieve the pressure in Jason's brain, but she warned she wasn't sure that Jason was strong enough to survive the surgery or that it would do any good even if he did survive. The damage, she believed, had already been done and could not be reversed. The chances for full neurological recovery are non-existent. The doctors then mentioned the unmentionable. The Dunhams should consider taking Jason off of life support. So they pulled out a copy of Jason's living will, which he had signed while serving at the sub-base in Georgia. They read it together in silence. If at any time I should have a terminal condition, become in a coma with no reasonable expectation of regaining consciousness, or become in a persistent vegetative state with no reasonable expectation of regaining significant cognitive function, then in any such event, I direct that the application of life-sustaining procedures to my body be withheld and withdrawn, and that I be permitted to die. So they make that decision. The Dunhams thought that Jason's breathing seemed more labored than before, even through the ventilator. I can't sit here and watch this anymore, Dan told Deb. Dr. Dunn described how they would disconnect the ventilator and what would happen afterward. A nurse hooked up a morphine drip to Jason's IV. Is he going to feel anything? Deb asked. The doctors assured her that he would not. The Dunhams stepped out of the room. The medical staff pulled the curtain closed, and at 4:35 p.m., the respiratory therapist slid the tube from Jason's throat. The nurse turned off the alarm on his heart monitor. Deb sat on Jason's right side across from Dan. Dr. Dunn stood at the foot of the bed watching Jason and the monitors. Lieutenant Colonel Byrne and two of his men stood there in silence. The colonel knew he was intruding on a private moment and considered leaving, but this bed was Corporal Dunham's final battlefield, he thought. And Marines don't abandon their brothers on the battlefield. A chaplain administered last rites. Then he leaned over to help Deb remove her gloves, and she once again felt Jason's skin as she held his hand. Sometimes she reached across and held Dan's hand. Sometimes she placed her own on Jason's heart. We're proud of you, Dan said. We love you. Deb touched the side and the bridge of Jason's nose, stroked his arms, and said, "It's okay, honey. You can go now." Dr. Dunn watched as the blue line on the monitor screen showed plunging levels in oxygen in Jason's blood. His heart rate fell until the green line went silently flat. Dunn stepped forward and bent down to listen to Jason's lungs and heart. He straightened up, removed the stethoscope from his ears, and said, "He's gone." It was 4:43 p.m., April 22nd, 2004. Jason's body relaxed. And Dan thought his son looked like himself again. Deb put a photo of the Dunham family in Jason's hand. I know we were talking before we kicked this thing off. And we were talking about the fact that, you know, there's always things that we can look at from whether it's a decision you made, whether it's a meaningless decision or one that matters, you know. Hey, we step here, do we go there? Do we put this unit over here? Do we go over there? Do we go down this road? Do I go on this side of the vehicle? Like, there's a million little decisions that we all make, and we all made. And it's something that can absolutely it's something that none of us can change. And it's something that if you knew the outcome, if any of us knew the outcome of the situations that we've been through, sure, you look back and say, oh, go left instead of right. Go forward instead of back. Go to that vehicle instead of this vehicle. But we don't have that luxury. We don't have that luxury of knowing what the outcome is going to be of every decision that we make. But we do have control over the decisions we make now. The decisions that we make with what we do now. And how we handle the things that we've been through. And as I hear this story unfold and sit here with you guys, you know, that's what I think about. Is not so much the fact that, look, there's a million decisions we all made that led to this point in our world. And we can't control them. We can't take them back. And even if we could, we didn't know the outcome. But we have the opportunity to make decisions now and to move forward in the right direction. You know, we've been going for a while, and I told you guys in the beginning, I was like, yeah, this is gonna suck. And I was also talking about the fact that, like anything that sucks, you know, you gain something from it. You make progress. You become stronger is the bottom line. You know, you do something hard. As an individual, when you do something hard, you become stronger. As a unit, as you do something hard, you become stronger. These things that we go through make us stronger. They make us better. And, you know, before we close out, you know, I don't know if you guys want to have one last thought, you know, about Jason, about his impact on you and the decisions